Okay, so I'll get started. Welcome to everyone. This is our first Foster Potter Q&A. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the country throughout Australia and First Nations peoples' continuing connections to land, sea, and community. We honour and pay our respects to the traditional owners of the land from wherever you're watching and listening tonight. If you wish to acknowledge the country you're on, pop it in the chat line and we can all read that. So basically, we're going to Jean's there, if you wave Jean, and Susie is our other director down there. She's got
Got
Jean
Jean, but
McMaster, but
I'm not
that's
really Jean.
Susie. Um, so Jean's up in far north Queensland, up on the tablelands. Jean, sorry,
Susie.
Susie's down about an hour south of Sydney. I'm in Botany near the airport in Sydney, so that's where we all are. And we've got people from Tasmania, Queensland, Sydney. Fantastic. Really good to see you. We're each going to talk, the three of us, Jean, Susie, and I, for about 5 minutes each, and then we will pass over and just open up for questions. So we'll just give you a rough overview. Susie will talk about what makes a successful placement, and Jean will then outline the flexibility that we try to offer. She'll look at the different sorts of placements and what Foster Potter is not. So if you've got questions, note them down or pop them in the chat line, and there'll be plenty of time for those questions. So to get started, we formed Foster Potter in 2023 because we identified the following problems. We thought there was a lack of ceramics and pottery workshop-based training opportunities in Australia. And we also thought there was a lack of opportunity for experienced potters to pass on their skills and knowledge in a studio setting, in a working environment, rather than through short workshops. So we're wanting to offer something that's more intense and long and thorough than a short workshop. Our primary aim is to support and fund students to learn and work alongside experienced ceramicists and potters to develop practical, technical, and business skills and the knowledge necessary to set up and successfully run their own ceramics studio or to help them run a successful practice. Foster Potter is a registered public company and we're endorsed as a deductible gift recipient. And that means we can accept donations and the donors can then deduct that donation from their income tax when they claim, when they put in their tax return. We're currently midway through our second year of placements. Our third round for 2027 opened on June the 1st, so a month and a half ago. The application deadline is in about 6 weeks on the 31st of August, and that's why we're having this Zoom tonight. We figured you've had time to have a look at the terms and conditions, the application form, and you've still got lots of time to submit an application. Successful applicants will be notified in late October. So our placements are funded up to $10,000. in year one and this year we've funded 2 each year at 10,000. We also have the Anne Mossman grant of $5,000. And next year is the third of 4 years. So Anne Mossman donated $20,000. She was terminally ill and she wanted to show support for what we were trying to do, and she generously offered $20,000. And the decision was to offer that as four $5,000 annual payments. The application is exactly the same. It's just that you can only apply for 5,000. So it's sort of suited to smaller, shorter placements, perhaps. So we can answer questions about that later. An application is submitted by the student and the mentor potter together after they've met, had discussions, lots of discussions, and they agree on what they want to do together. It's very important if you're applying as a mentor or as a student to read the terms and conditions. The website also offers lots of information about what is required to apply. So fosterpotter.com.au. A few things to mention and then I'll be finished. We want the mentor and the student to spend time together, ideally in person, as they prepare for the application, as there's many things to discuss. We recommend, if possible, that you have a trial day or 2 or 3 in your studio where you might do the placement. And the priority is that you have similar expectations of the placement. That is, that the mentor has skills and thoughts and knowledge to share, and the student is interested in those skills and the mentor's approach to working in the ceramic studio. So those two things need to come together. If the mentor's over here they do this, and the student's over here and they're doing something else and they don't match up, there's no point applying. It's really important. I'll stop there and I'll pass over to who's first?
Me, Susie.
Over to you, Susie.
So I was going to talk about what makes a good placement. Just following on from what Vicki said, very important to get to know the mentor. If you're a mentee, if you're a student, to try and really get to know the mentor. If you can spend time with them, I mean, that was feedback we've got from other people who have done this, is that's critical because it's the relationship that's really key. Obviously, if you're going to be working with someone for a long time, you really want to make sure that you have, you're going to have a connection. So if you look at what makes a good mentee, I would say you can actually break it down into 4 C's. A good level of competence, like we need a mentee, a student who has got some, is pretty capable, has obviously been trained, so sort of knows the way around a studio a little bit. So has got something to offer the mentor, isn't just there knowing nothing. So competence is really important. Commitment, a high level of commitment, willing to work hard in all aspects of the studio. Sometimes you'll be out of your comfort zone, you might not know. And it's about sort of having the flexibility to sort of fit into that studio. That's our experience that is really important. So competence, commitment, communication is key. Being frank with what you need, but also being really flexible, like not being too rigid. Meg Patey said at our open day, she said she did a placement as a student, and she said, I went in thinking I knew what I wanted to learn, and I came out learning something completely different, and if I had been really rigid and said, well, this isn't what I thought I was going to learn, I wouldn't have got the joy out of, the lifelong learning that she got. So being flexible and open to learning new things that you're not necessarily expecting, that's really great. If a mentee can do that, that's kind of what works. And the last thing is curiosity. So being willing to observe, because this isn't a teaching environment. It's not like you're doing a workshop and someone's just teaching you. It's being willing to observe and taking an interest in the mentor's work, all aspects of their practice. So being interested, being willing to observe, and being curious about what goes on in their studio. And what we found which we weren't necessarily expecting, but what we found last year is the mentees like Leanne, who filmed what was going on, and she captured this fabulous learning from Malcolm, and kind of that was part of the repartee they had too, is sort of, if it's possible to do that, that is a really good way of bringing an interest in your own work, and also showcasing the mentor that you're working for. So if you can work out some way of doing that, that can be really helpful. And it's also helpful for foster potter, and it's really helpful for people who watch, because they learn all these amazing things. Like I learned so much just from watching Leanne's, and I've learned a lot from watching Matt and Chester this year. So, a mentor who's willing to maybe give that a go. They might not be great on Instagram, but maybe do a podcast, or, whatever way they have of sharing the experience. That is great too. For a mentor, the feedback we got, which, what's important for a mentor and what makes a successful mentor, again, it's being very frank with the communication. So very clear about what they can offer, what they expect from the student. So real clarity on that, because obviously communication is key, and giving feedback. That was really important to the students. They really, really appreciated getting feedback, not only just on their own work. They always had a bit of time to do their own work, but just on how they were going in the studio, and getting really good guidance. I remember Leanne saying that the difference being in Malcolm's studio was he'd had what he called, he'd had workers before in his studio, but they weren't really mentors. And she really clarified that. She said when Malcolm's had people before, he might give them a task and they're doing it, but they don't have the connection to every other task. And he might not explain why he's doing things. But she said with me, he explained everything. So whatever we did, he was explaining. He was really, taking her through the whole journey of studio pottery, which she felt was terrific. So, guidance in that way, and also an interest in the students' work. If a mentor can give feedback how they're going in their own work and give them time and direction, that's fabulous too. And I just thought I'd finish by reading out just a couple of things that the mentors said at the end of their assessments about what really made it for them. And advice, that's right. They wrote advice to people, to other mentors. Leanne said, seek a mentor who's oriented. Well, she said, first of all, select the potter, not the work. So again, you need to select someone whose work you're interested in or you want to learn from because it matches yours or whatever, but it's the person that you're going to be working with all year. So a mentor who's orientated to being very patient, willing to let you experiment and fail. She thought that was very important. Standing around watching someone make pots does not a potter make. So being able to muck in and do the work is the greatest value. And she, obviously, but if anyone's seen her post, she just went she just was involved in every aspect of the of Malcolm's studio, and an incredibly hard worker. I mean, you have to be quite physical if you're in a production pot, and be prepared to do a lot of those physical jobs. Actually, and what Sienna said that she really found fabulous was meeting the other potters, like the mentor. Daniel took her to meet a whole lot of the other potters in the community, and for her that was a fabulous learning experience, just feeling that connection that potters can have together and that sense of belonging. So that was a great positive. And for Lachlan, what he was really good at is he had the flexibility to go into a learning environment which was incredibly isolated, and everything changed because the road, collapsed. And so he had to be very flexible about changing his expectations. And, it was quite a difficult placement to get to. And he was in charge of a kiln at one stage, and he just said he got so much confidence being out of his comfort zone.
Do you know he's here with us?
What?
Do you know Lachlan's here with us?
You can talk.
So maybe we can ask him later.
Yeah, being out of your comfort zone and having to fire a kiln and just, you can explain. I thought that was a terrific summary.
Be very happy to jump in later and tell that story.
Yeah, sure.
Great.
Yeah, great.
Thanks, Susie. That's a great overview of the successful placements we've had so far. That's terrific. Jean, do you want to talk about flexibility and what it isn't? What it is,
hello,
but
everyone.
What it isn't.
I guess a lot of the questions come up because we have such a diverse ceramic community in Australia. And Adopt a Potter was the model that we used, which is a UK model, which is a totally different context to Australia. So we have deliberately designed the program to be as flexible as possible. We haven't put in, we've put in as least as many guidelines as we can, because we don't know what you're going to come up with. So far, as Susie's talked about, we've had a very traditional apprenticeship type with Leanne and Malcolm, but that's not necessarily what will come up. We've had other models like Lachlan's, where he's had to travel and had blocks of time. So that's another model that could happen. We've got Chester and Matt is helping Chester fire kilns, but also he's going to help him with setting up an exhibition in another country. And he's being introduced to that process. So it really depends on the context that you find yourself and your mentor or your student in. And so what needs to happen in an application process is to really outline that clearly. What it isn't is lessons. It's not fronting up for lessons so many times a week or once a week for so many hours. That's not the model that we envisage side-by-side learning happening. It's about being able to be part of an arts practice, whatever that arts practice looks like. And most artists' practice are made up of a whole gamut of activities to make money, keep well-being happening, and make ceramics. So it just depends on what the situation is. So we can't answer questions really around what it would look like, other than to give you an idea of the non-negotiables, which are side-by-side learning in a studio or in an activity where ceramics, you mightn't be in the studio, you might be setting up an exhibition. You might be firing kilns in a workshop with other participants coming, but that would be part of the ceramic practice of your mentor. So really, it's about communicating in the application process how much side-by-side learning is going to occur and what that is going to look like. And it could be that the money is spent partly on travel costs because Australia, you have to travel and sometimes long distances. So it's about outlining and being able to show the amount of time that's going to be spent traveling and the amount of money that's being spent traveling alongside, well, how much time is going to be spent learning side by side. You know, there has to be that balance happening. So it's not meeting your mentor by Zoom and then sitting down for a few hours putting an application together. Meeting your mentor or student is about working together first. You know, Susie said it's really important to have that time together. And, you know, the placements that have worked really well have been when the student and the mentor have actually got to know each other in the studio working together first. That is, I believe that that's a critical thing that really needs to happen, if you can. Now, I know it's really difficult in Australia in terms of distances, but if you really want this, then there has to be an effort put in to making that happen. Yeah. So really, it's flexible, but there are some non-negotiables, and we can talk about those in question.
Great. Thanks, Jean. Well, I hope that's given you a bit of an intro to everything. Open to you now. Questions. You can either just butt in or whatever.
I've got a really boring question to start with. Get
That's
it out of the
okay.
way. Does the Potter have to be registered as a business, and do they have to have workers' compensation, or what's the go with all that sort of
No,
insurance and whatever?
if you look at the terms and conditions, both the mentor and the student must have liability insurance.
Okay.
The mentor neither have to be a registered business. No.
Okay.
Can I saw that in the terms, and had a question about that because I love that we're starting with insurance. That really is a boring start, Nathan. Thanks. Cheers.
Yeah, but it's an important one.
Sadly, it all revolves around insurance, which is sad, but yes.
So I've got, being a school/pottery, have extensive public liability and volunteers insurance. So does that take some of the responsibility off mentee because they would be covered under that?
We still require them to have their own D.
Okay.
I mean, it's just if within liability insurance, the way it works is if the student did something pretty irresponsible and it was proven that it was their irresponsibility, they would need the cover, not.
Can you give people an idea of how much it is?
Well, you can join the Australian Ceramics Association, and I think I'm a bit out of touch with what it is, but I think it's about 150 or 60 for a membership, and then it's 200 and something for the insurance, and that's an annual fee. And so you can also go to NAVA, or you can, some people have some mentors or maybe a student, but it's more likely to be a mentor that might have a business insurance policy that covers them for liability. And that So it's all to do with having a certificate of insurance you can send to us to show you're covered for liability.
You can also get single project insurance coverage through companies like Duck for Cover as well. That can
Right.
cover the periods of the placement project as well. If you don't want to
Yeah.
sign up for the full 12 months under the Australian Ceramics
Yeah.
Association insurance.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The good thing too about Tacker's insurance is that it's also product liability insurance. So if you happen to sell some work that you're making in a market, you're doing a market together with your mentor, you sell some work, if there was any issue with that, then you'd be covered as well. Who's thinking of applying as a mentor?
Mentor. Oh, good.
Mentor? Any mentors? Dee?
D, good.
Maybe? Neil?
Neil?
Come on, people, we need some questions.
I do have a question.
Yeah,
Actually.
Danielle.
Hello.
I got a question.
Danielle's got hang on, we'll do Danielle, then Neil.
Okay.
Thank you. I have reached out to a couple of people in terms of trying to find a mentor, but yeah, I guess it's going to be tough to find the right, like somebody who's available and willing to be involved. So the question is, do you guys have any recommendations or like a list of people based on state? Or I'm in Victoria. I mean, obviously there's a couple on this call, but other than that, is there anyone that you guys recommend, or is it solely up to us to try and source and convince somebody to work with us?
It is actually solely up to you. We are not providing people's names, but we just, the ceramics, Australian Ceramics has a directory. It's really about somebody whose work you respond to. I was talking to a high profile ceramic artist yesterday, and they said they'd never been approached by anyone ever in their whole career, and that astounded them and astounded me. But it's really about going and approaching somebody that you find their work and their approach to making is something that resonates with you.
Yeah, just on that point too about sorry, Jane, have you finished? Sorry.
Well, yeah, emailing, they all have, most of them have websites and emails. It's not an easy thing to do, to cold call, but
or write a letter too. And again, it's curiosity. If you're interested in their work and you know about them, done a research, and you write to them, they're going to be much more willing to open the door for you. There is a very accomplished potter, Australian potter, who, when she was younger, she was in England and she really wanted to do an apprenticeship. She said she wrote about 20 letters to different people, and she went and visited 3 or 4 studios and spent a week with these potters and decided at the end that, 3 of them, that they really weren't a good. She loved them and they were great, but it wasn't what she wanted to learn, or perhaps she didn't quite get on with them so well. And she really did her homework and eventually got someone who took her on for a year. So it is, I mean, it seems a lot to ask people to do. We're not saying you have to go and visit them all, but it is great if you can,
Leanne Fenwick with Malcolm did that. She talked to some of the people that had done Adopt a Potter in the UK about what to look for in a mentor, and then she just contacted a handful, maybe 5 or 6 people in Australia that she thought would be good mentors, that did the work, had the sorts of production studios she wanted. And then she sort of visited them and worked it out from there, and then chose Malcolm. So I really think that choice thing is such a critical part of what we're talking about, is so important, because when we looked at setting this up, we talked to the Adopter Potter people, Lisa Hammond in the UK, and she said, "Oh no matchmaking.
Mm.
You're not
Yeah.
matchmakers. It's
Yeah.
really crucial." We've had a lot of questions about that.
Yeah.
You know, have you got a list of mentors I can talk to? Well, you know, what is it you're looking for? You've really got to fine tune what it is you're looking for and tell them, oh, you know, I'm looking for, you know, I can do 2 days a week in your studio for a year, and this is what I want to get is, you know,
This is what I can offer.
this is what I can
Yeah.
offer.
Yeah.
This is what I'm interested in. This is
Yeah.
my work. And send the same email to 5 or 6 people and see what happens. And then ring them and have a chat.
And a lot of mentors did not want to be on a list because they don't
Yeah.
want to be lumped with someone. You know, for them it
But
was
they-
like, I'm in my
yeah.
own space. I don't want to let someone into my space who I don't necessarily get on with and have
You've
to put up with them
chosen,
for a
you
year.
know.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, they want to meet you and they want you to be interested in what they do, and you
Yeah.
obviously want them to be interested in what you do. So it's
Yeah.
got to be it's the rapport that is so important.
For sure. Yeah. No, thank you. Thanks so much.
Okay, Neil, you're next.
Yeah, look, I guess it's a little bit related to the previous question. I sort of wonder how many applicants you get and whether those who don't get a placement, whether there is any access to who they are and what they're looking for in case somebody like myself would welcome them in or welcome them to come drop by for a week, spend a week in the studio and to get a feel both ways if it might work and whether something might proceed through your scheme or through your scheme which may not depend on your funding.
Yeah, well, it is certainly something we can think about where before this we went live with this meeting and we've talked about this a few times, the three of us, is that there is appearing to be some things that maybe we can start to think about offering like that. At the moment, we're trying to just keep it as simple as we can, but
Yeah, I appreciate wanting to keep it simple.
yeah.
But
Just
it's
linking into your question, though, you mentioned how many applications did we get? We really only get about 15 each year. So we're not
inundated.
Of course, it's a big the application's quite time consuming, and you know, we're not inundated with applications.
And it's also not an easy thing to do in your life for 1 year to work, you know, often travel, and also have somebody in your studio who.
Yeah, no, I think the point is, from my perspective, that you've got a good thing going, but even if you've got 15 applicants and only 3 places, you've got a number of people there who don't have a placement, but you might, if there was a way to give those 15 people an opportunity an opportunity to perhaps see what mentors might be out there, or for me to see who didn't win the prize, so that I could, and if I saw some sort of profile that they have and what their interests are, then I may be able to help them out for, it may not be a year, it might be a month, or, you know.
It's a really good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we haven't been offered that before from any
I'd
mentors,
be
so
up
that's
for something like that as well, for
interesting.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Really good
fantastic,
for
Neil, to offer
Yeah.
that idea. It's something that we would have to talk about and think about, and we'd probably get back in touch with you.
Yeah. We hadn't considered it
Flesh
before.
it
Yeah.
out.
and just how you manage that matching up
Mm.
as well.
I mean, it's not for you to match up. It
No.
wouldn't be your job. I mean, I'm not trying to make work here. I'm trying to extend the effectiveness of something that you've initiated
Mm,
to expand the scope.
mm,
And I'm not wanting to get involved in the nuts and bolts of that too much, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
simply how to, you do have an audience, you do have mentors and mentees who are interested in what you're doing, but you do have, as I understand it, just the 3 placements at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, it could be we just have a page on the website, mentors
Who are
looking
willing
for
to get it? I
students.
mean, if you wanted to, we could tell people, look, if you're interested, Neil Hoffman is, write to him, and then you can. Is that?
But I guess, Neil,
Neil,
you're
I'm
wanting to
interested,
have a.
FYI.
What was that, Lachlan?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy for people to make an approach.
Yeah.
That's great.
So, because I've got a reasonably well-equipped studio,
Yeah.
and I've got accommodation, because we've just moved into a new house on the property. And it's something I'm happy to evolve in the coming years.
Yeah.
So I'm not in the studio every day of the week. So I'm not somebody like Malcolm who runs a full-on production studio anymore. I've done that. I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Although, and it's very much, month by month, because I have other things going on in my life. But I am interested in that exchange of what the type of exchange that happens through your program.
Look, I think, Neil, what we hoped to do with Foster a Potter was to broaden and enrich the landscape of being able to have mentors and students, and I think your idea blends in with that. So,
And that's,
I think
but someone
the
of your
other
caliber
thing,
would be terrific, and the flexibility that it doesn't have to be every day, it can be a few months in the year, so there's so much flexibility built into it, but just knowing that you're willing to take someone on is good for us to know, so that if people ask. Yeah.
As an example, I have 2 people coming in October, one for a month and one for 4 days. So that's the sort of variety that can happen. In one case, they want to make work here and fire a small kiln. In the other case, they want to just bring some work here and learn how to fire a small kiln. Both can work with my sort of schedule. So anyway, that's
great. Yeah. I think too, one thing the 3 of us have noticed is just by offering this, it starts conversations. By us offering this Foster a Potter thing, starts conversations, and we've known of people that have been mentoring and been the student without us, just because the conversation started at one of our open days. People followed up with someone offered something, someone offered like come down for a month. And so we know that it ripples out in all sorts of ways, and that's been really good for us to see as well. It doesn't always need the structure that we've we've got here.
And
Who's
people who
next?
don't necessarily get it too, the
Yes, the
mentorship or the
ones who
funding
don't.
might go ahead anyway, because
Mm.
they've formed a really good relationship, and they're both going to get, because it's just a reciprocal thing. It's not going and having lessons. The mentor is getting help in their studio. So that's what we wanted, a reciprocal sharing of skills and, manpower and knowledge. And, it's not just going and having as Jean said before, turning up and, getting a funding to go and have lessons somewhere, private lessons. It's really both of them are getting something out of it at the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Did you
Yes.
have a question?
I
Yeah.
do.
Panos?
Yeah. Hi. Look, I have a couple of options of people I could ask, but one of them is in Adelaide, and I just wonder how. And I go to Adelaide possibly around about 4 times a year to look after my elderly mother, so I'm going there anyway. But I guess I wonder what would something like that look like, given it's expensive. It's I wouldn't be going for long periods of time, but and Neville and I have a rapport already, and it would be a really good,
Look,
chemistry.
We've had models where people have wanted to travel and put the money towards travel, and that we are open to that. I guess it really depends on what the quality of the learning and the working side by side is, matched up with the costs of the, how you can, the fact that you're going there already. And if you were going 4 times a year, and if you could squeeze in some
couple of weeks at a time,
blocks of time, and line it up with firings or something,
Yeah. Okay. So it would work if it was, say, 2-week periods every several months or something like that. That wouldn't be too little.
No, look, it honestly, a part of what these application processes are is who's in the mix too.
Yeah.
Like anything that people have to judge, it's all about the pool as well.
Yeah.
So, if you've got if you've got a limited amount of time that you can spend, and then there's other applicants that have a lot of time that they can spend with and it's quality, that there is a criteria around the what we're after is the time that you spend close learning side by side.
Okay.
Thanks. But it's not out of the question. Like, definitely
good
put
luck.
it in. It's worth putting in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we don't know who's going to apply. So.
Yeah. I do have another option, so
Is it one of the 2026? Is it one of the 2026 recipients in Melbourne and doing it with a woman in Canberra?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and they're travelling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Lachlan, do you want to talk about your placement, Lachlan, and that lovely learning that you got out of it?
Yeah, I'd be very happy to if it's a good time for me to jump in. I'm Lachlan McKee. I'm a studio potter based in Cairns, in North Queensland. And I was the 2025 recipient of the Anne Mossman grant through Foster a Potter. So I just want to say, firstly, a big thank you to you 3 ladies for putting on this session and for this program in general as well, because it definitely fills a niche in the learning environment at the moment for this lack of this tacit skill transfer between experienced potters and those of us who are emerging. So I just want to, before I get into what my placement involved, I really want to touch on 2 points already mentioned, is the relationship. Having gone through the process, the relationship really is key. Definitely knowing your mentor beforehand and having a relationship prior to undertaking this endeavor, it's really, really important because, I'll get to my story in a minute, but you get to see all the nitty gritty, and you're living with people essentially, and it's important to have a strong foundation to build on as the relationship turns to mentor and mentee, and also flexibility. It was mentioned before, but I just want to really highlight that it's a very, very important part of the mentor and mentee relationship is to be flexible in the expectations that you have going into the project and what you're going to take out of the project. Because Susie was saying before, mentioned it, but what I went into the project thinking I was going to learn and what I took out were almost two completely different things. This might touch on your question as well, Panos, but my project essentially was to assist Len Cook, who's a Anagama firing potter based in Paluma in regional Queensland near Townsville. Len lives up in the mountains, has had an Anagama kiln there, and has been firing Anagama kilns for about 40 years. And this project came about, and Foster Potter came about at a very important time for me when I was basically trying to decide of what kiln do I want to build, where do I want to progress my trajectory as a studio potter. So we put in a project after discussing that we were going to fire for the first time in 40 years his Anagama twice back to back, essentially. So that was our initial project. It was more based rather than studio time with Len. It was about the wood kiln, all the preparation, all the realities that go into firing these large kilns with a small team. So we got the good news that we were successful, and then it rained, as it does in far north Queensland, and the Paluma range shut down. And it's only just opened now in 2026. So it threw a major spanner in our works because I was essentially unable to get up to see Len, who already lives hours and hours away in a single lane road up in the mountains in isolation. So flexibility played a really big part in even just getting the project off the ground to happen. So I was able to get up there for the placement, and essentially the funding was used for me to just cover transport and living costs, because essentially I was almost camping. I was staying in a friend of Len's shed for the period that I was there with him. So we did a firing, but due to limited access, it turned out that only 3 of us could be there for the firing of this kiln. So 3 people fired Len's Anagama for 100 hours, and Len's 75. So it ended up being me basically firing this kiln for the majority of the time. And Susie touched on that. At one point in the beginning stages of the firing, we couldn't get this kiln anywhere near temperature that it needed to be. And I've come in to take over on a night shift from Len, and he's said it's never happened to him before in his whole career. He can't get this kiln to temperature. He thinks it's packed wrong. We were going to have to shut everything down, unpack, restack, and start the firing again. I took that as a personal learning. I thought, not on my watch. So I sat there all night and I used the knowledge that I had gained up until that point to fire this kiln by myself. Broke through the stall, got it firing. Len came in the morning when the sun came up, and I've never seen a bigger smile on his face because there was flames shooting at the chimney and we were going. So we continued for the rest of the firing. But for me, that one night, that 8-9 hour shift of firing the kiln itself really cemented for me that, I can do this. This is something that I'm going to be able to continue in my own career as a solo studio potter, choosing to fire with these big kilns. So, I could never have foreseen that was going to be the biggest learning that I would take away from the experience, but it made the whole thing for me. And then now to touch on the flexibility part, we were using a wood that Len had never used before. And having only previously fired once a year, we got to the end of the firing and realised that we had basically a third of the timber left that we needed to do the second firing. So we were in a position where we basically couldn't continue the project as planned. But Len, to his credit, still had knowledge and skills that he wanted to share. So in discussion with the directors and the Foster Potter panel, essentially we came up with a new project, went through the whole process, resubmitted it. Len had offered to, instead of firing his Anagama a second time, he would teach me all of, the bread and butter basics of running a studio and doing gas firings to make, what he calls pocket money. All the, the cups, the mugs, all the domestic forms, which was separate to his artistic practice and the Anagama. So that was another bonus and a really big learning for me that I couldn't have foreseen going into the project as well. And it was almost even more significant than if we'd planned to do that originally, because it was just, we sat side by side, one on one, and I learned his entire production range. And it was fantastic. And I'm still using skills that I learned off him to this day. So yeah, flexibility is really, really key. And having that relationship again is key. And just Neil, if you are going to open up your studio, mate, you need someone to come and fire with you. Have the skills will travel, mate. Very, very interesting.
You're applying right on this Zoom now.
It's a great idea.
Doing your application again.
I think once Neil opens up the books there, he'll be surprised at people that are going to apply.
I think so too.
Happy to answer any questions from that. So
yeah.
And also,
that was great, Lachlan.
Yeah, and Lachlan, how many hours did you have to travel on four-wheel drive tracks to get around that road blockage?
So 4 hours down from Cairns, and then if I went the back way, another 4 hours on dirt roads to get up to Len's property. But when the range was accessible, it was like another 2 hours. It was about another 2 hours going up the range way. So yeah, it was a big challenge. And, I ended up being there through 2025, about just under 3 months in total. So Panos, you're saying that like you can do it in little blocks. Essentially, I would just go and do little residential blocks with Len, give him a chance to recover, and then I'd come back and get all the knowledge from him.
So, and the other thing that I think as you mentor, flexibility and communication. Like Lachlan is a great communicator and very frank, and I think you were very good at putting forward, what you needed and what you could offer. So communication really is
definitely, and there's there will be challenges during placements, and it's about how you navigate those challenges in that mentee-mentor relationship, and then communicate those as well to you guys.
Yeah,
and that's what we want to say to mentors too. Sorry, just quickly saying, if we really want mentors to communicate and mentees to communicate with us. So if any mentee, we've learned that through you guys, that if you are having trouble with the mentee, any communications, call us anytime, because we can always advocate for you, if you feel a bit, that's something too, that the communication with everyone is really important. Yeah.
Any other questions? Kim?
You mentioned before about on Anne Mossman grant might be a little bit different than the other ones. Is there much difference other than it's just
There's
that
no difference except it's for 5,000. The application
it's just less money.
The application form's exactly the same, but I suppose
less time.
If we looked at the applications for that Anne Mossman one, they're for shorter periods, half a year or short blocks of time, and they don't require the 10 grand. $5 grand was enough. So
yeah, I've just been approached by somebody that I don't know down here on the Gold Coast who's a jeweler who's getting into porcelain ceramics work, who is inspired by the Great Barrier Reef. So she's taken to my work because that's what my work was based on before I moved. So I just wasn't sure that I would be a mentor, because I'm not I don't know what my studio practice would be like to be a mentor, because I make things for myself and I exhibit for myself, and I'm more of a sculptor kind of person than
well, it's pretty crucial that you're on the same track.
She is. I think,
you must think she can learn something from you that you.
Yeah, she already does sculptural coral kind of things that I used to do. I guess I'm just doubting myself. I've also sort of moving has taken a lot of the wind out of my sails with my purpose, because I used to work at TAFE and Cairns, and now, and I'm not by the water anymore, and I miss it. Yeah, so yeah, that's all right. Oh,
Have a read through all the sort of what we expect from both mentor and student in on the about page. There's quite specific things about what you each bring, and sort of read that and talk to one another about that.
yeah,
You know, we were a bit surprised with some of the applications that we have received, where if we're not clear with what, like we've got questions about their application and we've rung them up to have a chat, we've often found that they really haven't talked to one another very well at all. And so that can be, you know, a bit of a mark against the application if we just get the impression that, you know, really it was done in a rush. They haven't really thought it through. So the most important thing is that you've really read it and understood it and talked about it, and you've got a connection, a plan for what that time together will be spent on, what you're both aiming for.
Cool. Thank you.
I have probably a similar question to Kim. I realize we're on the brink of out of time, but you know, and I understand the clue is probably in the name, but you know, is production pottery kind of central to the ambition?
No, absolutely not.
No.
You know, I think
answer.
There's not enough.
Well, that's good. I mean, as you both know, I don't
Australia
qualify on those terms, but have lots of other things going on. So cool.
Well, we looked at that, Dee, with Adopt a Potter. Adopt a Potter in the UK is mostly production potters. And we realised in some of the preliminary work that we did before we started, we had some Zooms with various people around the country, that wasn't going to work in Australia because there's really not lots and lots of production potters like there is in the UK.
And Jean said earlier, it's such a diverse community.
Yes,
exactly. And also ceramics is taking such a different, you know, like it's sculptural now. There are so many exciting things that are going on that we don't want to just limit it to production pottery either. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. No, we're really open and looking for really exciting projects that people want to do together.
Cool. I want to be a mentee now as well, though.
Yeah.
Well, I think that'd make you a good mentor, actually.
Wanting to be a mentee.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Same thing.
Yes.
Go for it, Dania.
A quick one. I'm assuming that the answer is maybe no, but just age range for like mentors. How do you judge when you say experienced potter? Is it really just experience in what you're looking to learn and understand?
I think you have to experience, you know, you can work in ceramics for a long time and not produce quality work. And so you really have to, it's about having somebody who has really high quality work and has a practice with experience that you value. And
successful.
Yeah, you could say high quality. Who's judging quality? But it's people who've been, you know, who were probably quite well known, isn't it? You know, who've been,
Cool. Thank you.
I have another kind of boring question. I'm just wondering how the funds are distributed, kind of thing, because, you know, if you're a plumber and you take on an apprentice, there's government subsidies. and that sort of thing, and so I'm wondering how that has been sort of organised.
The
Look,
payments are made.
sorry,
You go, Jean.
in the application process, there's a section where it's you nominate the allocation of percentage to student and mentor, and so that is a discussion that you would have with a mentor and student. It's really about being able to offer something to the mentor, and the mentor offering something for the student that is financial. The financial aspect, I mean, 10,000 is a drop in the bucket of what it's going to actually be for you personally.
Yeah.
Maybe we should give some examples.
Yeah. So
some of our applications, 0 goes to the mentor, 100% goes to the student. Some, I think it can't be more than 50, it's got to be 50-50. The student can't get less than 50% of the 10,000. We pay it in monthly installments. So it starts when your placement starts, and you get the 10,000 divided by the number of months that you're going to do, and we pay it appropriately. So if your discussion has led to the mentor requesting 25% and the student 75%, then the payments are monthly that percentage of 10,000.
But you work that out when you put the application in. So we're not sort of saying, well, we're going to give this much to the student or this much to...
No, it's up to
You've
them.
agreed that before you put the application in. Yeah.
Does that answer your question, Nathan?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm also curious about if there's any sort of like obligations with like I remember reading that say the student donates however many like pieces of work. I think it says
It's requested.
Yeah. It's sort of requested like an example. I think the example is like 25 mugs, and then like a big thing from something big from the mentor. But I'm also wondering, is there any sort of other obligations like around social media or stuff like, because I don't really social media.
We've just asked people
generally.
if one of them can post on social media, that's a good thing. It's a good thing for us that it promotes the project itself.
And we found the mentor and the mentee have actually found it's really good for them, for their profiles, and also, but it's not something you have to do. I mean, we didn't expect that at the beginning, but it's just the first year people did it, and it was like, wow, this is great. So, yeah, it wasn't something that was...
I guess, the obligations from students and mentors is really, those sort of obligations about work and social media. It's really about helping us promote the program and raise money for the program.
Yeah.
I loved what you said earlier, though, about having learned so much from the videos from Malcolm's studio. Like it's so nice to kind of share those learning opportunities.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why we asked Chester and Matt. Like Chester has got so much to teach. And
Chester wanted nothing to do with social media.
He said, I don't do social media.
I don't do
Matt
it.
set it up, and he, he's going to make sure that he draws when he gets these nuggets of information from Chester. He'll share them with everybody, which is terrific. It's win-win for everyone. The other thing we ask the mentors and mentees, if they're able to support us in our fundraising, we have a fundraiser every 2 years, and we've got one coming up in October, and a few of the mentors and mentees are coming, and that's when the work will be sold, and it's just great if they can come along and do demonstrations and talk about their experiences. So we invite all of you and the pottery community to come along, and that's a great way. As we said at our first function, that's where, you know, a few people met and ended up doing nothing, like a foster a potter, but not
They
without
did their own
any
foster
funding,
potter.
you know, because they met someone who they connected with, who will come up and I'll work with you. And so we're trying to make our fundraiser into a place where potters can meet mentors and just feel that connection and make contacts that you never know where they're going to lead. So so that's something it's not an obligation, but if the mentors and mentees, we've got one coming up in October on the 10th, 11th of October this year, and some of the mentors and mentees will be there, and they are very willing to answer questions and share their knowledge.
We'll be there an hour south of Sydney at Susie's place. Any other quick questions, or we might wrap it up?
I did just want to say thanks for this whole thing, though, sharing Lachlan's sort of things, because I just Googled, I've got a teacher and he's who I'd probably be doing this with. I've got to speak with him on Thursday about the whole thing. And he's talked about, he's done apprenticeships with like numerous prominent figures through Australian pottery. And I was just like, well, how do you do that? And I just literally, you guys are the first result for like ceramics apprenticeship Australia or something.
Yes, fantastic.
So,
how good's that? And
so
look,
I think it's a fantastic thing.
That's great.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, the government used to offer them
better.
years ago, and that's how a lot of potters got a lot of their, when they left schools, that's how they got their skills, and there's just nothing. That's why there was as Vicki said, gap in the market. We had to do it.
Because information is great, but knowledge is priceless.
Yeah. Well, please feel free to give us a ring, send us an email if there's anything else we can help with. We're available for, if you're putting in an application, you get stuck on something or you want to ask a question, just drop us a line or ring. My number's on the website if you want to ring. Okay, we loved seeing your faces.
Yeah, thanks for all showing up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And we'll
thanks for your ideas, Neil.
Pleasure.
We'll be in touch, Neil.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll let you all escape, and I'll just stop this recording.